Hello everyone. We'll be moving to the topic of function, which is the lecture number 3 on algebra. So, starting with functions, I should say functions are used to denote the relationship between the dependent and independent variables. So, you have an independent variable and a dependent variable. Independent variable is generally termed as input and the dependent variable is the output. So, a function is the relationship between the input and the output variable that we have. Let's look at an example. So we have an equation which is y is equal to 4x plus 10. Here x is a independent variable or an input variable and y is a output variable or a dependent variable. Y would depend upon the values of x. So I put in the values of x as input. The function is computed upon that. What is the function? Whatever is the input, that will be multiplied by 4 and 10 will be added to it to give me the value of output. So function is a relationship between input and output variable. X stands for the input value or the independent value and y or fx are synonymous. Fx is called the value of the function at x. So what is the value of the function at x? That is known as fx, or I should say the output. And it is obtained by substituting the value of x in the expression which is given above. So we need to understand the function is only a relationship. So it's something like, you give your value of input and machine is operated and it gives you your corresponding output. So for each value of input, you have an output associated with it. However, more than one value of x can give you same output fx. So there can be multiple values of input that can give you the same output, which is fx. So an example for that will be x squared. So if you put the value of x as 2, your answer will be 4. If you put your value of x as minus 2, your answer will still be 4. The next concept that we'll discuss is domain of a function. The domain of a function is a set of all permissible inputs, that is, all the possible values of your input variable or your independent variable x. Whatever are the possible values of x, they will be termed as domain of a function. The domain is generally a set of real numbers that we'll be talking about. So sometimes the domain of the function is restricted to a specific set of values of x. Sometimes it could be all real numbers, sometimes they're generally specific set of values of x which can be taken as an input variable. Range of a function. The range of values of output variable or a dependent variable or fx are termed as range of a function. So if I compute all the possible permissible values of fx and if I club them together, that will be known as range of the function. So let's look at an example. The function is defined as fx is equal to 3x squared plus 4x plus 5. X belongs to all the integers and x is between 0 and 5. Find the domain and the range. Domain is all the possible values of input. Now input is given to me as per the restriction. So the value of input that I can take is 1, 2, 3 and 4. It has to be an integer and it has to be between 0 and 5. 0 and 5 are not included. So I will not include 0 and 5. I will start from 1. So it will be 1, 2, 3 and 4. The range of the function will be all the possible values of the function when I put in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So if I put in 1, I'll get some answer which will be 3 plus 4 plus 5, which is coming out to be 12. If I put 2, I'll get another answer which will be 3 into 2 square, 4 into 3, 12 plus 8 plus 5. So I try to put in all the input variables, try to compute the value of fx. Whatever are the possible values of fx which are coming out to be will be denoted as range of this function. Let's look at another function. which is 2x over x minus 6. Now, in case this is the function which is given to me and the question is find the domain of the function. Now, domain of the function is all the possible set of values. If I look here, in any expression, my denominator cannot be equal to 0. Because if my denominator becomes equal to 0, it's an infinite case that I will enter into. So, x minus 6 cannot be equal to 0. That means x cannot be equal to 6. So, domain will consist of all the real numbers with an exception of 6. So, I'll have all the real numbers in my domain with an exception of 6. Let's look at another example. Now, the equation which is there is this one. So, this is the value of fx equals to. Here also I should write fx equal to x cube plus square root of x plus 2 minus 10. Now, in this case, if you look at it, if x becomes less than minus 2, it will not be a real number. Hence, for a domain of such kind of number, the number under the square root should always be non-negative. Can be equal to 0, can be greater than 0. So, x has to be greater than or equal to minus 2. So, I can have a value which is equal to 0. I can have a value which is positive, but I cannot have a negative term under the square root sign. So, it will be all real numbers such that x is greater than or equal to minus 2. Now, another question that we have is, if xy, this is a function based upon 2 input variables. So, I have 2 input variables and I'll have an output variable z or fxy is equal to this. Find the value of the function. So, I just have to substitute the values. I'll put x is equal to 1, y is equal to 2. So, I'll have 1 plus 2 plus 2, 2 square, which is 4. So, I'll just 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. That will be the answer that I'll have for this question. Now, let's discuss the case of absolute value function. Absolute value function gives me the distance between the number and the origin on the number line. So, whatever is the absolute distance, the distance I will take will always be positive. Whatever is the distance between the number and the origin on the number line is called as the absolute value of x and is denoted as mod of x. Modulus of x is what it is denoted as. So, if I have to find mod of 3, that means how much is the distance from origin or 0? It is 3. If I look at minus 3, it is also located as 3 units from the origin. So, this is plus 3, this is minus 3. It is also located at 3 units, it is also located at 3 units from the origin. So, if you have 5, positive 5, it means the distance from the origin that you have is 5. Minus 23. Just remove the minus sign. As simple as that. Your input can be negative or positive, but your output is always positive. So, whatever you fill in, if your input is negative, your output will turn out to be positive. Your magnitude will remain the same. You don't have to worry about the magnitude. Just remove the negative sign if that is present. Minus 23, it will be plus 23. Minus 10.2, it will be plus 10.2. So, if you have to define a function, the function is defined as modulus x function or an absolute value function will be equal to x if x is positive, will be equal to 0 if x is 0, and will be equal to minus x if x is negative. So, what we have is, if again, my input will depend upon this thing, my output will always be positive. So, your input can be negative or can be positive, but your output is always positive. Your output will not follow, this should be plus x again, sorry. Your input can be negative or positive, but your output is always positive. So, this is the graph for a modulus function. Modulus function is what it looks like. It's a V-shaped graph that we have. There's some properties that I need to remember whenever I am dealing with the modulus function. One is if mod x is less than a. So it's an inequality thing that I'm now entering into. Then x is between a and minus a. So if you have something like x is less than 5, I should say x is between 5 and minus 5. The value of x would be between 5 and minus 5. If mod x is greater than a, then x would be either less than minus a, so I'll have this sign, or greater than plus a. Mod of x plus y will always be less than or equal to mod of x plus mod of y. This is also known as triangle inequality. Mod of x plus y is less than mod of x plus mod of y. Mod of x minus y will be greater than or equal to mod of x minus mod of y. Another thing that we have is, if I try to combine all of these things, mod of x minus mod of y is less than or equal to mod of x plus minus y, which is in fact lesser than mod of x plus mod of y. So mod of x plus mod of y will be the highest value. Then the value will be mod of x plus y or x minus y, followed by the least value of mod of x minus mod of y. Let's look at another question that we have. At a grain packing company, sacks of grain are filled by a machine that weighs each sack to be sure that it holds between 24 3/4 and 25 1/4 pounds of grain. So it is something I can write it as 24.75 and 25.25 pound of grain. Only then a sack will be sealed and shipped. If a sack holding B pounds of grain is shipped, which of the following describes all possible values of B? So if I look at it, B could be anything between 24.75 and 25.25. B could be anything between there. So if I look at extreme cases, B, and if you look at the right hand side, it is 1/4. So that means it will be B minus 25. It cannot be B plus, because the answer cannot be equal to 1/4, right? So if I just look at B minus 25, I can suppose different values of B and satisfy the answer. So different values of B that you can have is, B you can take it as equal to 25. So 25 to minus 25, what is it? 0. 0 has to be less than 1/4. This option is eliminated, this option is eliminated. You are only left with this answer option, which is the correct answer that we have. This is the easiest one that you can do. You can take the value of B to be 25.10 also. So then if you look at a difference of, this difference is 0.10, which is obviously less than 0.25. So giving me E option again as my answer. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope the concept of functions is clear to you. Move on to the next topic to understand the concept of coordinate geometry. Thank you so much. Have a great day.